A second period disaster now results in the Panthers losing 5 of their last 6. But let's tell the truth. The decor as currently constructed is not championship caliber.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Monday, November 25th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X at MonoMan12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So, Florida Panther fans, grateful to be back here once again on the show, even if the Florida Panthers are in a little bit of a bad stretch as of right now, where now they have fallen to 3 points behind the Toronto Maple Leafs for the top spot in the Atlantic Division. And there's a matchup against those same Maple Leafs coming up in a few days. So a lot to take care of, even between now and that matchup on Wednesday night from Amerant Bank Arena. But with the Florida Panthers and their game on Saturday, Jesper Boquist was shifted to the wing. Tomas Nosek came out of the lineup due to the fact that the Palmaris wanted to match speed for speed with the Colorado Avalanche with their style play. Carter Verhaeghe was shifted on the third line after a little bit of his struggle lately. And in a game where you have to focus on Cale Makar, Nathan MacKinnon, the Panthers really truly allowed the role players of the Colorado Avalanche to get involved in this one. I mean, you allow Jonathan Drouin to get his first 2 goals of the season for him. Val Nichushkin gets his first set of points. I know he just recently came back after his suspension, but the first Drouin goal, a little bit of a panic from Bob coming out of his crease and then knocking into his own net. The second one was after some poor coverage after a board battle and allowing Drouin to cut to the net right before Cale Makar had that feed from based on a high hockey IQ play where Jonathan Drouin had a little bit of could have had one more handle even before scoring on Bob. And that was after an icing that could have been avoided for the Panthers. And not only did the Panthers stand in their own end, but the pucks were not getting all the way deep there. And for the goal that the Colorado Avalanche scored to take the lead there for them, and bad changes for them. Although we have been picking on Uvis Balinskis lately here on the show, although Uvis was coming off of the ice for the change, Adam Boquist allowed the Colorado Avalanche to get behind the D. He allowed Logan O'Connor to get behind once the puck was dumped in, and just halfway to the bench and then halfway staying on the ice right before that breakaway for the Avalanche, right before they scored to make it 3-2 at the time. And the Colorado's off puck movement kind of helped with one of the goal that was knocked off from Kulikov's skate, where Middlestat drove Kulikov back. Mackey threw a little bit of a back check to Mikko Rantanen right before getting it high. And, Kulikov's positioning wasn't bad on that one. It's just a tough angle on that skate. But also, watching the replay again, I didn't see Sergei Bobrovsky's screen. So when that puck was was dished to the blue paint, it was a little bit of a late reaction for Sergei Bobrovsky. So that one, and then the goal that was scored by Sam Girard, it was just a little bit of that. The fourth one, that was a little bit of a late reaction there. So it's a little bit of a mix of just defensive miscues and then just Sergei Bobrovsky just being late to react on that one. And it's just been an issue all year for the Panthers, as in 5 of their last 6 games, a lot of them have been giving up 3 goals against, and the Panthers just can't outscore all their issues. And where the goal that made it to 5-2 for the Colorado Avalanche at the time, the Niko Mikkola and Val Nichushkin were throwing jabs at each other. Kulikov had Rantanen covered and then left him, thinking that Niko Mikkola had him, but then the feed to Rantanen was redirected in, and I'm just thinking, man, the coverage down low is just really poor. And for this one, if you exclude the empty netter, 4 out of the 6 goals for the Colorado Avalanche on this one were below the hashes. I know Sam Girard's goal statistically was from the point due to it redirecting off a Panthers player, Kulikov there. But I mean, it really comes down to the higher percentage shots for the Avalanche there for them in this one. And it really came down to the Panthers and just not getting the pucks in deep, and for the Avalanche really took control. The Panthers weren't really getting on their forecheck. Aaron Ekblad spoke about it, especially after the second intermission. It really was a little bit of a struggle for the Panthers as they went a good amount of time without registering a shot on goal. And the start was promising. The Panthers were skating with them, fighting off the forecheck, as we mentioned. And for Carter Verhaeghe's goal, Anton Lundell fought off the check, rimmed it back around to the half wall, and then, hey, 52 seconds in on a new line for Carter Verhaeghe, getting it over the shoulder of Alexander Georgiev, and then Alexander Barkov with that insane positioning off the double deflection where Matthew Tkachuk first deflected it, and then Barkov was able to bat it down without getting the stick above the crossbar for his goal on that one. And then Reinhart getting his 16th on the season on the power play at that time for Sam Reinhart to make it a 5-3 game and still making it somewhat within reach. I know the Panthers were going into the third period and they haven't even gotten a single point when trailing going into the third period this season. But the Panthers had a little bit of hope there, and which Sam Reinhart now on a 13-game point streak. Now with Kaprizov a little banged up, Alexander Ovechkin is not in the lineup for the Capitals. Sam Reinhart, yeah, he is well on pace to win the Rocket Richard this year. Is really on a little bit of a tear there, but even before, even though Bob's positioning and reaction of his post to post movement was a little late on some of those goals. I mean, the Panthers were just giving up quite a few breakaways where even there was one where the Dmitry Kulikov and Niko Mikkola pair gave up 2 in the same shift that they had, while Colorado was able to get in their line change. One of them was on Mikko Rantanen, had a step on him, saved it with the glove. And then later on, the fourth line for the Colorado Avalanche had a little bit of a breakaway. And I mean, we discuss more about if goaltender interference and everything, and we've had this conversation multiple times before. I mean, the Panthers on the 5-on-3, they had a chance to tie the game, but on that goaltender interference call, I want to discuss that for you guys on the show. This is one where the initial call matters for an opportunity for the Panthers to get it within one and have quite a bit of time to still at least tie the game and get a point out of it. Trying to look up the exact time. 4:17 into the third period. 11 seconds after they originally had the 5-on-3, and Tkachuk skate, he went into the crease, and it was on the edge. And for Alexander Georgiev, he made a high IQ play. We spoke about high IQ play earlier in the segment with Cale Makar getting it to Jonathan Drouin, but another high IQ play with Alexander Georgiev, who is entitled to go up into the crease and even create the contact for Matthew Tkachuk. And the contact was before the puck went in and disrupted the positioning there. But at the same time, I don't mind a gamble for Paul Maurice on that one neither, because again, if the timing was for it to find the back of the net before the contact was made, and you have fallen behind after a disastrous second period, that is where you can't go wrong with a little bit of a gamble. And even if you lose that challenge, you still have a man advantage there for the Panthers. So I actually don't really truly mind that challenge for Paul Maurice, even though he has He's been truly successful throughout his career with the Florida Panthers in challenging calls, but for them, it was the right call where Kachuk did go on his own inside the blue paint, and just one of those where it just sucked the air out of the out of the building and any chance for them to come back. And really, the beginning of that third period, I mean, the Panthers were really starting to get their legs going again. I mean, the fourth line drew a penalty in the neutral zone the after the Colorado Avalanche had a little bit of a quick clear, but the fourth line was getting in and getting in on their forecheck and just creating more possession time in the Colorado zone, which unfortunately the Panthers weren't able to capitalize there. Which they're still running the Aaron Ekblad on the power play, which it robbed Ekblad of his first goal of the season. And we're gonna continue this conversation on the state of the team, the current decor, but we're gonna also discuss a little bit of silver linings for the Florida Panthers here, even though they have dropped 5 of their last 6. We're gonna discuss that more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and you could start winning big on FanDuel with all the NFL action with America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can get $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get 100 in the middle of the game, you can check in on the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel to join today. Once again, fanduel.com to join today. You'll get started with 150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's fanduel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And once again, I'd like to thank you guys for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Monday edition of the show, where the Florida Panthers have lost 5 of their last 6 and now are in a little bit of a struggle right now. But for the Florida Panthers here, through 21 games through this season, they are 12, 8, and 1. And around this time last year for the Cats, they were 13, 7, and 1. So they were around the same record as they were last year. Do with that information what you will. So you could process that however you want. I do acknowledge this lineup is a little bit different for the Panthers, and they have lost a lot due to the cap and also with their defense. So you have guys who were puck moving defensemen who are quick enough to skate back in their own end. Obviously, for the Panthers, the quickest skater to get back in their end to limit the time and space for any opposition is Gustav Forsling. Although for the rest of the roster, you're still putting a whole bunch of flyers for up and trying to see what fits, and it's not quite spaghetti on a wall and see if it sticks. For them, it's just more for Zito, knowing that these guys haven't worked out elsewhere. Let's see if they work out in our program, and but also with the knowledge of knowing that there are options later on and even past this year, as you could still reset everything for this team with the decor. And let's be honest, Dmitry Kulikov is not a top 40 for the Panthers here. These next 2 years for the Cats, where Kulikov was given this 4-year extension, this position that Kulikov is in the top 4 is only temporary. He's playing 4 more minutes per game than he has all of last year, as far as average time on ice. Throughout this next phase of the Florida Panthers in their championship window, they're going to have some deadline cap space to work with. They're going to have to find out what they have with Aaron Ekblad's contract in order for whether they're going to extend him at a lower hit or let him walk. But at the same time, there's a little bit of continuity there for when most teams, and the Panthers are one of those teams that change up their fourth line, which as long as your top 9 and your top 4 is well intact, you can have that mentor role for Dmitry Kulikov in that bottom pair. And once again, this is temporary for them. And it might be temporary even next year, because if the Panthers do decide to go for a top 4D and shift Dmitry Kulikov down, and they choose to extend said defenseman, which we'll get more into later in the week, and we'll actually put names to it. If that person gets extended and Ekblad walks, then Dmitry Kulikov is only going to go up a spot again next year for a little while, as the Panthers are going to be in a cap crunch once again, especially if they extend Sam Bennett, which will create more of that hole in that part of the lineup. So a little bit of what I can't necessarily predict what Bill Zito is necessarily thinking, but I could imagine that this is a little bit of a part of the process of looking at now and into the future for this team, as they just try to continue on for and once again, a guy who's well familiar in everything. He just needs to draw the not as tough assignments for the opposition, and we're seeing that in the first 21 games of the year for the Panthers. Although Sergei Bobrovsky does need to be better, as he's regressed a little bit this year. Spencer Knight hasn't been that much better for the Panthers. And here's the thing: I mean, the Colorado Avalanche gave the puck 21 times, but again, the Panthers can't outscore their issues. They're not constructed in that way. They are best when they're playing tight and forcing to the outside, and then winning their board battles, especially in the corners, and then getting in transition very slowly for them. And Nate Schmidt, he's not the OEL replacement that we were hopefully thinking that he was going to be. Adam Boquist, he's still young. He's 24, and I was not expecting him to be elite. I was expecting him mostly to be mostly a power play guy in a third pair. I mean, there's a reason why he was scratched so many times in Chicago and Columbus, even. As much as I even voiced the fact that Pascal Vincent in Columbus last year was not very reliant on his rookies, or young players even. And that's the thing for when you're trying to get guys here. It was never really high ceiling guys for this Panthers team. The Panthers have 2.4 in deadline cap space, as far as what Puckpedia is saying right now for them. And here's the thing for the Cats, and they're on their way to the playoffs again. They have the resume of being a Stanley Cup champion, and at least from what we hope that one or two guys out there who have some trade protections, who would say, this is a proven winner. This is a place that a lot of people like to go to. Sunshine, no taxes. I want to force my way there. And that would bolster up things later on. I know that's a long ways away. We are about 4 months from the trade deadline, but this is the state of where the Panthers are. This is how they're currently constructed currently. And two bad stretches for the Panthers last year came after Ekblad and Montour came back from injury, and even in March. The Panthers are not at that points percentage right now, even for as far as like a 10-game sample size. We haven't even reached 10 games of this stretch. This is 6. This is why it's not time to panic for this fan base and for the Panthers here. I know a 10-game stretch would be completed once these next 4 games are for 3 at home and 1 in Carolina. So I'm very hesitant to press the panic button here for this team as of right now, and they have a lot of big tests on their schedule as of right now. And even Matthew Tkachuk spoke about it, about getting their butts kicked and getting away with it against non-playoff teams when they're not playing to their style. But this is where you get to kind of put your money where your mouth is right now for where this team is at, where it came a lot earlier than we were expecting it for their struggles as of right now. And hey, when you're going through a whole lot of playoff runs in multiple years, sometimes the bruises can catch up to you. Sometimes the mental lapses in the regular season, because you're not fully in that playoff mode, sometimes those can catch up to you as well. So let's also consider that for this stretch that the Panthers are on. And I got a DM the other day on Instagram saying, "Are the Panthers cooked?" They're not cooked. No. I refuse to think that way through 21 games of the season for them. So that's another thing for the Panthers, and just this is just a time where, you know, they haven't reached the first benchmark yet of American Thanksgiving, which we will evaluate more on actually giving grades to different units and different players and everything. Well, we are almost at that. And thankfully, the Panthers, even on their 7-game winning streak, I said this, and you could go back to it. I said they created room for error. Right now, this is their error as of right now. So that's just wanted to let you guys know that it's on the record for that, and still second place in the Atlantic Division as of right now. But we're going to transition over to segment number 3, where we are going to discuss more of silver linings and preview tonight's game between the Florida Panthers and the Washington Capitals. We're going to discuss that and more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. And you can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get in on the action over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that could lead to big payouts, like Taco Tuesday each Tuesday. You think that Connor McDavid will score more than 0.5 goals next week? If you think that Nathan McKinnon will average more than 1 goal a game, you could do that all on Prize Picks. And Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this hockey season. Which players are going off, which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. And for Prize Picks, you can download the app today, use code LOCKEDONNHL, and get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Right now, download the app today, use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. And you can do that all on Prize Picks. Run your game. Third and final segment here on this Monday, November 25th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So some silver linings for the Florida Panthers from Saturday night in their 7-4 loss against the Colorado Avalanche is Mackie Samoskevich. Although the score sheet does only say that he registered 1 shot on goal in the game, he did get an assist on the Carter Verhaeghe goal for him, a secondary assist for him. But the amount of times that he was just matching speed for speed with the Colorado Avalanche, although they were closing the gaps, throwing checks, and also breaking plays off from him, he was really, truly getting a little bit of a step. But hey, that's an experienced Colorado Avalanche team that just recently won, and he's gaining so much confidence in that. And the fact that he's doing that with a veteran in Carter Verhaeghe, Anton Lundell, who's a Stanley Cup champion third line center, and just oozes with confidence. Although Anton Lundell's uh, drought ended with the goal to make it 7-4, although it came in garbage time. Hey, that's a little bit of a confidence boost for Lundy. Uh, just after this, even though they're currently on a little bit of a bad stretch right now. But hey, this is an exciting time for the Panthers in this matchup, as Carter Verhaeghe has really owned the Washington Capitals, not only in the regular season but in the postseason, dating back to a few years ago. And even Paul Maurice spoke about, although we picked on Carter Verhaeghe on that careless mistake against the Chicago Blackhawks that led to the empty netter, spoke all about how hard he's working, and the fact that for him it's just never giving up on a guy and knowing that he can get hot at any moment. Although the even if he gets in on the scoring even more, that's not going to fix the defensive issues for the Panthers. You still need to be right on that end of the ice for the Cats. Uh, One of the most exciting games between the Panthers and the Capitals last year was that game on February 24th, an exciting overtime period. Rushes up and down the ice, no neutral zone regroups, and then Gustav Forsling won it for the Panthers in overtime against Charlie Lindgren, which that was the same game where Barkov had got his career high in penalty minutes, and then Paul Maurice called him a goon in the post-game press conference. But not the same Capitals team that was coached under Peter Laviolette just a few years ago. Spencer Carberry is in his second season with the Washington Capitals. Although they had a negative goal differential after being a playoff team last year, you knew that they were going to come in with improvements after what they added on their roster in Pierre-Luc Dubois, Jacob Chikrin as part of the mix. John Carlson had a full 82 game season last year after missing a whole bunch of time the year before. And we saw a few years ago how much they missed him once he was out of the lineup. And then you think about how this Washington Capitals team, they truly have a tandem there with Logan Thompson and Charlie Lindgren, and they take up less than $2 million in their cap, which is outstanding. And both of them are right catch goaltenders, by the way. Logan Thompson statistically doing better than Charlie Lindgren for the Washington Capitals. And crazy to think, I don't know if you guys know this story, but Logan Thompson was traded in the middle of the draft while he was signing autographs in Vegas. But that trade was requested by Logan Thompson. That was the thing about that whole thing there, and that how awkward that was that he was in the middle of that when it all happened. But saw the emergence of Connor McMichael last year, and another one of those players who Stan Bowman when he was with Chicago failed to develop in Dylan Strome. Although Dylan Strome was originally drafted by the Arizona Coyotes, he was able to get to Chicago, and he was unable to develop him there. And although Alexander Ovechkin is missing right now due to his injury, Dylan Strome has really centered that top line fairly well for the Caps, as he's one of the top point producers for them. And even though Pierre-Luc Dubois hasn't really produced as far as the goal scoring, he hasn't been a problem there. And once he gets going, this Washington Capitals team is gonna put themselves in a really great position to finish in the top three of the Metropolitan Division. So as of right now for the Panthers and their lineup, Jonah Gadrovich was in a yellow non-contact jersey this morning, so it looks like Tomasz Nosek will be centering the fourth line once again for the Florida Panthers coming into this matchup, as the Florida Panthers look to have break a little bit of a skid that they are on. So right now the top nine is a little different. Verhaeghe is back on the second line with Sam Bennett, and the third line is Lundell, Luostarinen, and Samoskevich for the Panthers, as far as what is tweeted by Jameson Olive of FloridaPanthers.com. And there is a little bit of a rotation right now with Nate Schmidt, Balinskis, and Adam Boquist right now on the bottom pair. So we'll know more about that tonight once the Florida Panthers do get on the ice, and also for what Maurice is going to say to the media, which will be coming up shortly for the Panthers as we are recording this at 11:03 a.m. on a Monday. But we will also be posting this on our YouTube community channel, our socials. So make sure to also look at those for any lineup updates for the Panthers. But back to the regular top nine. So it looks to have been a 1 game experience for Carter Verhaeghe to get his confidence back, and looks like he got it for the Panthers there on Saturday night. So that's good news, as once again he's coming into a matchup against a team that he has feasted over his career. That's going to do it for today's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Make sure to come back for tomorrow's edition of the show, where we will break down this matchup between the Florida Panthers and the Washington Capitals from Amerant Bank Arena, as the Panthers hope to eliminate a little bit of a fire that is a little small as of right now, but just to calm everything down and also keep pace for the top of the Atlantic Division. But in the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on Locked On NHL Network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone, and Steel Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez, signing off. And you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.